right, guys. Well, welcome to everyone. I know there's still a lot of people that are coming into the webinar and joining. We'll let them continue to do that. I've got some quick housekeeping and announcements to make. So we'll go through that as people are joining. Again, thanks so much with joining our webinar today, our live webinar. I'm used to doing these things pre-recorded and having a lot of control over it. And so this is a little bit uncomfortable for me. I'll just go ahead and put it out there and say that. But anyway, thanks for joining. This is a webinar presented by Student Housing Insight. I am the CEO of Student Housing Insight. If you haven't heard of Student Housing Insight before, quite simply, we exist to try to make student housing better. Student Housing Insight started as a podcast back in 2017. After that, we said, you know what, we think we've got something here that people enjoy and are getting a lot of benefit from. Maybe we should create some type of online community. So we built our website. We built an online forum with that website that allows the members to do everything from, post about new jobs, give their ideas on how to make student housing better. So if you haven't joined that, and we call it our SHI community, make sure that you go to the website up in the upper right-hand corner, hit the login. If you're not signed up already, just go through the sign up process and join that. I'm sure you'll get a lot of benefit from it. And then after we delivered that, we actually said, you know what, maybe we should do some live events for our audience as well. So we launched our Student Housing Insight regional summits back in late 2018, did that through 2019. And of course, 2020, we had to cancel all of those. And so I'm excited to get back to those here in the near future. But wanted to share really quick, as we're still waiting on folks to come in, wanted to share really quick a video that was recapping our events back in 2019, just so everybody can get a little bit more familiar with who we are and what we do. So let me go through really quick. Hopefully this will share quickly. All right. Hope you guys enjoy. While I'm doing this, I'm also going to launch a poll asking everybody, are you ready to get back to in-person events? Really interested in hearing what you have to say about that. So make sure that while you're watching this, you fill out that poll as well.
We're really excited to be here today at the SHI Summit.
I learned so much about the industry, about the market, and where to get data I otherwise wouldn't even know.
For a one-day session, it's very compact, very concise.
It is so important to be able to get with other people who are in the student housing industry and be able to network and collaborate.
Some really good insight for owners, operators, managers, really the whole shebang.
You got to check it out, be a part of the community, listen and follow, subscribe, like all the great things for Student Housing Insight.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. And then looks like we've got probably about half the people that have registered look like they're in attendance right now. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Yeah, man, I miss those live events. I really, really do. And hopefully within the next 3 months, we're going to be making some announcements about an in-person event that we plan on doing either at the end of this year, end of this calendar year, or in Q1 of 2022. And, judging by, by the poll, it's 100%. Everybody is ready to get back, and actually beyond ready to get back. So, in addition to the pandemic, basically creating all those issues with live in-person events, it also created a lot of issues with new developments. New developments in student housing came to kind of a screeching halt if you were looking to deliver in 2021, especially 2022. A lot of those things had to get shelved for another year until really the finance world could kind of figure this thing out. And as student housing has proven time and time again, we are a very resilient asset class, and things are coming back very quickly. So that got me thinking, are things going to be different post-pandemic when we start talking about leasing new developments? We don't have a model. We don't have, that sparkling swimming pool that we can show off. We don't have that state-of-the-art fitness center that we can show off. And by the way, we've got to find a new word to describe our fitness centers. I've been in this business for 24 years and we're still using state of the art. I think we can find something better to describe our fitness centers. But in reality, with new development and some situations with new renovation, we're selling dirt. We're selling ideas. We're selling a vision. And that's a little bit different. And so we have to rely heavily on some other tools, especially with our website, especially with our leasing centers. We've made a huge move over the past years before 2020 of integrating virtual reality. I've seen a lot of leasing centers with the goggles. Those aren't necessarily the most hygienic things to be using, I'm sure. And so it just got me thinking, what's going to be different? Well, I wasn't the only one that was thinking along those lines. Euphoris Vr, if you guys haven't heard of Euphoris Vr before, you're going to hear a lot about them. They render virtual reality tours based on your architectural plans. They also do live scans. I met these guys about 3 years ago and have just been blown away at the quality of work that they do. And talking with them, they were coming up with those same questions. Hey, how is this going to be different for our clients? What additional things are going to be challenging for them? And what is it that, we need to be asking students right now about what's important to them, when it comes to the amenities and how they're able to view that through the website or inside of a leasing center. And so they went out and surveyed students, over 200 students across the U.S. And then they also ended up bringing in data from College House, which we've all gotten used to over this past year, and put those two things together to see how those companies or those new developments were leasing up and some of the things that they did, some of the things that they're doing, and how that's kind of panning out. And then bringing that together with the information that they got from the students. So joining me today to go over the results for that. We're not going to go over all the results. It's a 20-page report. And if you're registered for today, you're going to get a copy of that report emailed to you in a link after this webinar today. But to give us some highlights from that report is Jes Hudgins, who's the Director of Marketing as well as Business Development from Euphoris Vr. Jes, how are you doing?
Hi, Wes. Thank you so much for that great introduction. We're so excited to be here today. As Wes said, we are an immersive 3D visualization company that specializes in supporting student, multifamily, and senior housing. So we're super excited to be here with all of our partners today. Like Wes said, I have a slide shared with some of our renderings. We have some of the most photorealistic solutions on the market, based off of doing high quality renderings, property captures, rendered scans, and virtual tours. So we know that last year kind of rocked everyone's world within this industry, and we still had a job that we had to do. We still had to market and lease our communities. We still had to get in front of future residents, and we had to do that in a way that brought the value of virtual to a level that maybe was foreign to some of us or not some of us. So we as a rendering partner with you guys, really looked at how we can make a bigger impact with your visualization, with your tours, with your websites, with your social media presence to still hit your pre-lease numbers and your marketing and leasing numbers. We also know that not all virtual solutions are created equal. And that's really kind of where our curiosity sparked of wanting to understand, what is everyone else in the market doing? What are our competitors doing for you guys? What are your competitors doing in the markets that you guys are leasing in? And that's really where the idea of our report came from. So we started the value of virtual.
But Jes, really quick, let's
go
go back to those photos. I don't know if you can zoom in at all in this, but I just want to ask and make sure, so we're not doing any kind of false advertising here. Are any of those actual photos after the project was delivered, or are all of these rendered?
Yeah, that's a great question, Wes. So all of these are rendered photography, and they are, if you can tell, pictures of amenity spaces. And some of these are probably projects that you guys are, our viewers are familiar with. They range from new devs that we're delivering in 2021. So we have, the golf simulator, the arcade game, the crazy leasing office with a slide to printing stations, etc. What I really love about kind of this collage is that the lower right-hand pool photo, we did drone footage to get that Atlanta skyline at the same angle that your future residents would have.
Oh, wow.
From that pool deck. So that was super fun. Atlanta, as you guys know, the weather is up and down. So it took us a few times to get that sunny, beautiful blue southern sky that we all know and love. But as you can see, I mean, something in comparison to having that photorealism, it does make your future residents question or not even notice because they think that it's real, right? And that's really what we want to get to. That's kind of the bread and butter of when your residents go to your website or your social, that they're not thinking that this is either one, not under construction, or two, not even a tangible product. We take the intangible and make it very tangible for you in a way that promotes curiosity and provokes emotion and excitement, because right, these are Gen Z. We have to get them excited to be like, oh, I'm gonna live there. Like, that's gonna be my view. Like, yes. And then they're gonna reach out to you guys and sign leases.
That's amazing. And I've worked with you guys on on a couple of projects and just going through the entire process. It's unlike anything I've ever dealt with. An architect will typically package some type of rendering into what they're doing for the developer, and you guys just blow them away. So I can't speak enough about how great it is. And you guys actually saved us a little bit of money because we didn't have to do a photo shoot afterwards, because these were better than the photo shoot.
Exactly. Yes. And
anyway.
Yeah. And that's really, again, like kind of where the idea for our inaugural Insights report came from, is we are a long-term partner. We take a long-term partner approach when we work with you guys. We work with your whole teams, from your architects to your interior designers, to your developers, to the manager, owner, operator. And we want to be seen as a value partner to better serve our clients' success and the industry. And what we found by this report is that we can better support how we prioritize what the importance of deliverables that you guys purchase or look into or receive when it comes to a rendering standpoint. So as the panel will talk through today, kind of their best tips and tricks and practices from their organizational standpoints when marketing and leasing a new development. From a rendering standpoint, to your point, Wes, we aren't looking to price gouge you. We're not money hungry. We are really just wanting your success. We want to say, hey, like, we see you're going into the Southeast market. You might not necessarily need to render out X space, but what we have found is students really value the fitness center. So we should put, the fitness center, and we should deliver that first ahead of your website and your social campaign launching within that market. So being able to prioritize your deliverables, to have those conversations to better serve you guys and your success when launching your websites and your social is going to just make us all successful in the industry. And we look forward to having those conversations with you guys. So jumping right in, as Wes said, this is a 20-page report, so I have condensed way down. So please take a look when you guys get this after the webinar. But like we said, we teamed with College House. You guys know College House, and we were able to extract the 67 new developments data that have 2021 deliveries and compare that against the student survey that we did. We followed suit with kind of breaking them out within the 5 regions that College House follows. So we've got Midwest, Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, and West. And we looked at how many new devs within those regions were being delivered in 2021, and then what were their pre-lease numbers in those regions at the time that we conducted this report. This report was conducted in about March and April of this year. So obviously, if you guys are like, that's not my pre-lease number, it's gone up. It absolutely has. But everything, like all of your amazing on-site leasing teams and you guys on the call have absolutely been killing it. So yes, this is from March, April, and things have shifted. But we were looking, to see how many were out there and how the pre-lease numbers were looking in comparison to the market. And what we found is, and it was no surprise to me being from North Carolina, that the Southeast dominated with 31 new devs with an average 57% pre-lease, even in April. And we all know why that was, given a pandemic year, which is great. And we saw, whereas the West, more 9 properties with an average pre-lease of about 32%. So a little bit more conservative, right? Which again, no shock there. So what we did was, after we looked at that and we kind of combed through our student data, we separated the report into 2 parts. So the first part being new dev trends per region and what students find important, and then student insights on the value of virtual and how that affects your pre-lease numbers. Given our time today, I'm not going to go into the new dev research too much, but really it stems with, is everyone doing a pool? Yeah, but how great is the pool? Do they connect to other spaces? How are students going to navigate from going from one space to another? Do majority of the new devs have study rooms? Are they staged authentically to showcase your printing stations and your Wi-Fi? Are they just a bullet point on your website? How common are golf simulators and video arcades? They're very expensive. Are people utilizing them? Do people also in the market have them? Are they oversaturated? Do you have them on your website and your social? And then are you showing off unique amenities that set you apart? So some new amenities that we're seeing are like podcast rooms and virtual streaming rooms. And as marketing to Gen Z, that could be the determining factor if somebody leases with you versus a competitor, if you're showcasing that outside of verbiage on your website. So this slide here goes into that research that we've conducted. It's broken down per region again by the amenities that we were seeing within those regions. And then we cross-compared it to what students found important. Was it more important for them to see a rendered photo or part of your virtual tour of the pool, or the fitness center, the study room, or the common space, etc. It's not that they don't necessarily want to see these spaces. Again, it goes back to prioritizing how to spend your rendering budget to make the biggest impact within your market.
I'm so glad you guys did that on a region basis, because as I'm sure our panelists that will be on shortly, will tell us, it's different. A student in, what's important to a student in Auburn, Alabama is not the same in Boulder, Colorado.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's key that you guys did that. So nice work.
Absolutely. Yeah. So these were kind of the major spaces. We all know that everyone has pools, private study rooms, outdoor barbecue pits, etc. But then we do, like I said, get into that data a little bit more and break it down for you guys. But today's focus, if I can find my mouse, there it is really the value of virtual, because this is really how the panelists will be describing kind of that getting your new dev started with the marketing or your capital development project from a marketing standpoint. But we really, as a rendering company and as a visualization company, wanted to say, okay, we know that our virtual solutions are necessary, but are they carrying the same impact that we all think they are from a student standpoint? And so we asked a series of questions during our student survey of how are students navigating your websites, social, online presence, your rendered photography, your virtual tours, and is that really making an impact when it comes to their housing decision? We also looked at that from the new dev standpoint, as well as doing some internal research on our own to your Instagrams and your websites, and just comparing a whole lot of fun data points. And what we found kind of starting out is your pre-lease numbers are absolutely affected if you have a virtual tour or not. So you can see here on the chart that we have the 5 regions broken out, and those new dev projects that had a virtual tour option definitely outperform, except the West, because we're the West. I live in Denver now, so we're a little wonky out here. But outside of the West, we saw a big increase in pre-lease numbers if you had a virtual tour, which again, not really a big shock there. It was also unanimous that when we asked students if they tour your community online before contacting your leasing office, that every student is absolutely going to your website, your social media before even picking up the phone and contacting you. So is your website optimized? Is your social optimized? If you have a virtual tour, does it actually load on your website? Did the rendering company that you work with give you the correct embed link, or give you something that was web optimized so that it showed up on mobile versus desktop versus Chrome, Firefox, etc. So thinking about all these things and how they are looking in comparison to your competitors, which was really great research for us. And we were super excited that we're seeing that the solutions that we provide absolutely make a difference to you guys' success. And 2, they absolutely leave an impact with your future residents. And so that made us feel really good, and hopefully you guys as well, because those are all marketing dollars that go towards these solutions that you provide, and they do pay off at the end of the day. Outside of kind of these student questions and how they navigate, we wanted to focus in on Instagram specifically. Instagram is really the only social presence where we have like a date stamp to when campaigns and kind of new devs are launched within the market. And so we wanted to say like, okay, we put a lot of time and energy into social. Like, when should we be doing that? What, like, is it important? Like, does it actually matter? And it absolutely does matter at the end of the day. Again, we know these answers to these questions, but we didn't know like how much it mattered, what that return was, what that impact was. And so what we found was, again, we asked the students, do they review social media before contacting the leasing team? And they said yes. We also asked them if they looked at your communities on their phones, their desktops, or a mix of both. The majority were a mix of both. So again, kind of going back to having optimized content for both platforms and browsing options. But then again, looking in kind of into the Instagrams per region, was there a correlation to pre-lease numbers based off of when you introduced your market or your new dev to the market? And what we found was that it really ranges from market to market on how successful you're going to be from a pre-lease standpoint. So what we found was in the Midwest, new devs that introduced in Q3 and Q4, and when I'm talking about quarters, I'm talking about the calendar year of 2020. So those that introduced in Q3 actually saw a 50% average pre-lease than the new devs that did not. And the same with Q4. Q4 being if they introduced, in Q1, if they introduced in Q1, then their average pre-lease was about 38%. So that's telling me that in the Midwest, if I have a new dev, then I should probably introduce in Q3 of the prior year that before it delivers. So I actually need a longer runway. If I'm delivering in August 2021, I need to deliver Q3 2020 or introduce. And the same thing with the Northeast, Q3 and then Q2. And then for the Southeast, Q1. So the Southeast, because we know the Southeast is such a saturated market, you really need 18 plus months to introduce your property to see that ROI. So the Southeast, by introducing your Instagram in Q1 of the year prior to delivering, those saw an average of 79% pre-lease. And then for the Southwest, the same thing with Q1. And then the West, again, kind of being our outlier, they weren't really putting anything out until Q4. So they were the latest. And again, I think we all know that just depending on your region, depending on if they're conservative, if they're not, that it really does impact your success as well.
So it's all about the gram, as
it's
the
all
song
about the gram,
says.
man.
and it's all about doing it as early as possible.
As early as possible. And I would even take that a step further with taking it to a different degree, right? So we can all add pictures and videos to our Instagrams, but I know when I go, and maybe I shouldn't say this, when I go, I see lots of the same content when I look at you guys' Instagrams, a lot of very similar filters, themes, photos, etc. So in addition to starting your social campaigns very early, what content are you creating that's also very different from your competitors? And that's really where rendering can also assist in that content creation. If you're getting photos, fly-throughs, rendered photography, work with a company like Euphoris that can socially optimize those. We can make the TikTok and the Instagram story videos in addition to the videos that you have on your website. So don't have your leasing and on-site leasing and marketing team trying to take 8K assets and shrink them down to fit, a perfect square on Instagram. Work with a rendering company that is going to provide not only assets for development, for marketing, leasing in your actual offices, for your website, but also social. And then work with them on thinking through lifestyle shots. Like, what are unique shots outside of, just, an angled view of a pool or your living room, but show your residents, again, these are kind of Gen Z, they want that lifestyle experience. They want that unique, fun, nobody else has this but me kind of college lifestyle living situation. And that's really where we're seeing all of you guys on your social showing that, portraying that, but do it in a way that when they're scrolling, they're going to be like, huh, that's different. And one thing that we did actually out of 2020 was we created social media packages that do just that are optimized. I think
I've seen this.
Yeah, if some of you have
really
heard me speak before, we launched what's called a Cinemagraph. And if you haven't looked at Cinemagraphs, then I strongly advise all of you to go to the Euphoris Instagram and find one. But it's where you can take, your bedroom angle shot or your amenity angle shot and animate one specific piece. So think like a coffee mug with steam being animated, or like the pool and like the water just rippling like in the pool, but it's a still image. It just has one piece animated. We've seen that those posts have such a higher engagement because they're different. They're unique. You don't see them. You're not getting scroll fatigue and just scroll. You're stopping, you're looking, you're exploring more. And so absolutely think through how you can take your Instagram presence and turn it up a notch, because that turning it up a notch, again, is what your future residents are looking for. And you can absolutely do that in the rendering stage through angles, lighting, intentional content, and having conversations with a company that wants you to be successful in that way.
Jes, we've got just a couple more minutes before we need to get over to our panel. Any other key takeaways that from this report that folks need to be looking at?
Yeah, and so you'll find this in the report. I won't go through it, but we do have kind of 6 key takeaways throughout the report that you'll see once you start diving into the data. And really, like I kind of started off with, if there's one thing I can leave you with, it's that rendering is so important, that you take your intangible product during UDev or capital improvement and you make it tangible for your future residents. And from design development to visual, and from design to development to all these pieces that the panel will get into today, visualization helps support your marketing and leasing efforts. It's really what will differentiate someone signing with you versus signing with someone else. If your websites are optimized, if your social is optimized, if your amenities are actually being showcased, if you do have a golf simulator, render it, show it off. You spend a lot of money on it. So hopefully when you review this report, you can pick out things that will help you help you kind of streamline or think differently about how you are approaching your marketing and leasing, especially in very saturated markets. and that you're able to see that by doing specific small little tweaks, you're able to see a higher ROI, because we do know at this point, students appreciate the convenience of online leasing, but at the end of the day, it's really your team and what they're able to do with the information and the tools that they've been given to see that return and to see those pre-lease numbers hit the goals that you guys have. So with that, I will leave you with, please contact us if you have any questions regarding the report, anything that we've talked about today. We are ready to partner with you. We are ready to bring your next project to life. We are so excited to hear from this panel, and I know I have a brand new notebook and pen to take down all the notes on how I can better serve you guys when working with you. So at that point, will let you take it over, Wes, and please put in the comments if you guys have any, or in the chat if you guys have any questions, and connect with us. And we look forward to hearing from our panel here shortly.
Well, fantastic. And I hope, let me just make a change here really quick. Jes, again, thanks so much for that. Thanks to the Euphoris Vr team for putting that together as well. I want to make sure that we've got, hopefully everybody can see in the gallery view. If you can't see gallery view, let me know in the chat and I'll try to get that switched over. But I want to make sure that everybody can see this great panel that we've got today. Guys, thanks so much for joining. I know you guys got uForis's report in advance of today, and I'm sure there's some things from that you've been able to pick out that you want to talk about. But really quick, let me go through the introductions for those that may not know who we're talking to today. What I'll do is I'll just go through and introduce you guys individually, and then there's two questions I want you guys to let our audience know. One, how many lease ups of new developments and renovations have you been a part of? And then also, how many of those are home runs? We'll qualify that as 93% occupancy at move-in, because it's one thing to do a new move-in or a new dev. It's another thing to be successful at it. So, and I know you guys have had some great success, so I want to make sure that we highlight that. But first up, we've got Adam J., who is the Associate Vice President of New Development Marketing at Landmark Properties. Adam, how are you doing?
Hey, Wes, I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. So how many and how many home runs?
Yeah, so since 2013, I've been involved with 21 new developments at Landmark. That includes our 2021 deliveries that we're currently working to fill up for this coming August. 6 of those have been home runs through 2020. And then including the 2021 deliveries looking ahead, right now we have got about 4 that are 87% pre-leased or higher. So we're expecting those to be home runs. And then a couple more that are 75% or higher. And we think we've got a great shot at making those home runs as well. So, last year was a doozy. I feel like we've bounced back really well, and excited to see all these new developments open in a couple of months.
Well, great. And joining us next is Chelsea Harper. She's a regional manager with the Price Company. She's also the regional manager of a property that's being developed just about a half a mile down the street from our offices here in Rock Hill, South Carolina, at Winthrop University, and it's 100% pre-leased. So, Chelsea, tell us a little bit about yourself and how many new devs and renovations, as well as how many home runs. Obviously, there's one.
Yeah, I was about to say you just hit on my current biggest home run, but another one in Clemson is right behind it. So I'm very excited to be in 2021 and away from 2020. I was fortunate enough not to have any deliveries, new deliveries in 2020. So I got around that a little bit. But all in all, I've been part of 6 new developments. All of them were successful, fortunately, and around 7 major renovations, and all of them were considered home runs as well. So I've been very fortunate in that aspect.
Well, great. Well, next we've got Jessica Mancuso from Asset Living. She is their Director of New Development Marketing. Jessica, welcome to the webinar.
Great to be here for all of you guys. Thank you. Hi to everyone who is in the audience from their offices, and especially hi to the Asset Living team who's on today. Since coming back into the new development role that last year and the capacity that I'm in, we have been a part of 30 different lease ups, 17 of those for the 2021 season, and the rest for 2022. Right now, we're on pace to hit 13 of those sites as home runs, and the rest that we've acquired kind of later in the season, hopefully doing the same. So quite a bit.
Well, great. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
And next up, we've got Jordan Manley, who is Director of New Development at CA Ventures. Jordan, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. Excited to talk through some virtual new development stuff today. But I have actually been involved in 55 lease ups over the course of my career. And as far as home runs, if we're keeping with the baseball analogy, my batting average is a 5.45, so a little over half. But if we're talking stabilization post move-in, almost all of them.
Yeah, you guys have done great at CA Ventures, and I've followed your career with a couple of companies you were with before landing at CA Ventures. So I know you know your new development. So
I love it. Hey, I'm crazy, but I love it.
Well, the last but certainly not least panelist here is not from a development company, but is Victoria Inchill, who is the CEO and co-founder of Empower PMC. PMC stands for Property Management Consultants. Victoria, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm excited to talk to you. We actually, one of my clients had Empower at one of their properties this past year, a property that's just has done it. You guys just blew it away. Property has not leased up very well in the past couple of years, and you guys just blew it away. So excited to have you on here. You know new development like no other, and although you may not be on a development team per se, you are the leasing assassin for so many of the new development companies that are out there. So glad to have you. But hey, how many new devs and how many home runs?
Yes, so we've had 13 new devs, and 10 of them were a success, and about 3 of them were a success at move-in. So pretty cool home run there.
Well, fantastic. Well, hey, let's jump into it. As Jes mentioned, you guys are tasked with selling dirt. When you launch your marketing campaigns, the property may not even be vertical yet. You guys have to draw that illustration, that picture, for prospects on what the property is going to look like, what it's going to feel like. I've been in your leasing offices, in those locations. I've seen everything mocked up from, the mini models to, the virtual reality rooms, to some kind of designated corner where you put VR goggles on. Obviously it takes, both an interactive leasing center, as well as an interactive website to get the job done with the new development and leasing it up. But I'm wondering, and this is going to be another poll question that I'm going to send out to everyone. Which one would you lose more sleep over? One, would it be your leasing office having a day-long power outage? Or 2, the property website being hacked and down for 24 hours. Let's assume this is mid-February and it's in the height of leasing season. Adam, we'll start with you.
100%, I would lose sleep over the website being down without question. And Jes mentioned this earlier when she was reviewing the report, but so many students are going and looking at our websites before they even reach out to the office. Or think about making an appointment for a tour. And we're seeing more and more every year, students feel comfortable doing all of their research and shopping online and making a decision to sign a lease without ever contacting the office. So absolutely, having your website be down for 24 hours, in my opinion, is a worst case scenario versus the power being out at the office.
All right, I've lost the flow of who's supposed to go next. I think it's Chelsea.
I agree with Adam, hands down. I would freak out, and so I still freak out all the time when the websites go down. I think everyone's goal in marketing is to drive all of our traffic to our websites. That's where all of our floor plans, renderings, on-site leasing is or online leasing is through our websites. So I would get frantic if the website was down.
Gotcha. All right, I think, and it was just, I'm a little distracted here at our poll. We've got 61% that have voted so far, and 79% are saying having the website down for 24 hours. So if you haven't voted yet, and you're in that leasing position or you're overseeing a portfolio, I'd love to get your input on that. So Jessica, how about you? Which one would you prefer? Which one would you lose the most sleep over?
So I'm gonna have to go with number 2 as well. I mean, the great thing about online leasing is that you can lease from anywhere. You can lease from your pajamas in your home. You can lease from, a study room on campus. So I would say definitely number 2. We've found ourselves in positions where we've had short delays on leasing office spaces, but we've still found ways to deliver leases to our clients and to the team. So definitely number 2 would make me lose a lot of sleep there.
All right, Jordan.
I concur with the group. I mean, I think the people have spoken, right? I mean, we're leasing on Instagram even. Some of these folks, you never even speak to them until they actually show up on move-in day. And, like I said, I mean, Instagram, website, I mean, everything is the virtual. We've even got the chat feature on the website. So just in case they were like, that phone or the text is not going to be, that's too much. That's one step too many. They can just be on the website and chat us. So, I think it's just the worst.
Victoria, I'm really interested in your answer on this because nothing keeps Empower down. So, but I'm interested because you guys are very, kind of high touch and like to get in front of the students. So which one would you lose more sleep over?
Yeah, I would lose my mind if the website went down, because leasing is essentially the number one part of the lease up, right? Everyone has a role to play, but without the leases, no one has a job. And so to lose something so important to be able to sign your lease, complete an application, will literally have me calling everyone in the company. What happened? Get it right back up. So 100% the property website. Jordan will tell you that if all else fails, you have paper applications and paper leases ready to go. So
get
do
those
not
pens and get that paper going, girl.
Okay. Absolutely. But the website 100%.
Well, great. And it looks like 81% say that they're going to lose more sleep over having their website down for 24 hours. So good to hear. And Caitlin, I see your comment there. Working out of a coffee shop has been a vibe for some time. So in fact, I got a comment about that I want to make here in a little bit, but completely agree with that. So anyway, hey, let me end this poll really quick and let's move on to the next question I had for you guys. When you talk about uForis's report, and we talked about Instagram and how important that was to get out, you guys have had the report for a couple of days. I'm just wondering, and Victoria, we'll start with you. Was there anything that stood out to the report that you would, encourage our folks to make sure they tune into when they get it?
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, we've partnered with Euphoris for a while, and I can tell you with our thought process of virtual leasing, their way of creating their renderings and the virtual leasing online is essential in getting the leases because like Jordan said, not everyone is going to come in to actually see your leasing office. So you have to have that presentation online way in advance to be able to get the leases that you need. I was not really surprised, but a little surprised as to some of the properties in the Southwest having to start Q1 of the prior year. But I can definitely see how the numbers are represented in the research that they did. But I was a little surprised, but I'm excited to pick up that new information to be able to use that going forward. But I absolutely love them. If you know me, you know I would rather lease you over the phone than to have you come into the leasing office. And so the content they provide is always 100% in getting the leases. So
great. Jordan.
Yeah, actually, none of the things in the report were a huge surprise to me. Yeah. I'm just glad that the anecdotal evidence that I witnessed on site is now in hard data, so that I can provide that to our clients and to others to educate them on what I already know. So thank you, Euphoris and College House, for this. You have no idea how much it's going to help my life. But that being said, I will say the two things I was very happy to see in the report was that students look at your community on social media before reaching out, something we know, but now it's proven. And then the second thing, which may have been less evident to some, is that 64% of students are most likely to sign a lease for a specific apartment feature versus 57% for the community amenities. So I actually have always felt that having in-unit features that serve the students in the best way, usable square footage, being able to have, your dual cabinetry, all of those things that can serve multiple purposes is actually more appealing to a student. And now we know that the numbers prove that. So
yeah. Jessica, anything else to add to that?
To echo a little bit about what Jordan said, on page 18, the statistic, 88 to 92% of students look online before ever looking in person at your property. And that's a staggering number. And that's across the whole country. So we have to be pristine and precise when we deliver any type of online presence. And then the statistic on page 13 really stood out to me. It's substantial because it talks about when you're a developer and you're building a special space for the consumer, whether that be like a podcast booth, media room, or a really special, unique coffee bar. That's the space that you're going to want to render out because that's what they want to see in the VR, the fly-through video. So as developers or as a third-party management company, we're going to want to advise our clients to render out that area.
Yeah. Chelsea.
So the statistic that I picked up on from the presentation she sent that she just touched on briefly right before Jes wrapped up was the importance of the staff. Because kind of like Jordan mentioned, a lot of the things that we've discussed so far are things that those of us in the industry who've been here for a long time just got like reaffirmation of. And mine would be that the staff is still super important. The name of the game is to get everybody driven to your social media and to your websites. But once they get to that point, they're going to make contact with your staff. And I think really hitting home that having the right people in the office is important, is pretty critical. And one thing that we do a little bit differently is that our teams in the lease up offices are oftentimes the folks who go straight to operations. So it made me feel really good about the importance of how specific we've been with selecting the teams that go into the leasing spaces.
Yeah, that's a good point. Adam.
So I was thinking the exact same thing that Jordan said, where nothing was necessarily surprising in the report, right, but it's really nice to see some hard data that kind of supports what we have known anecdotally, for years, and what we kind of report to our higher ups when we talk about what's important in having a successful lease up. So that is fantastic, and I think that'll be a huge help kind of moving forward for us to refer back to. I did think it was very interesting to see the dynamic from students from the different regions in the US and how they, you know, what amenities seemed important to them and whether or not they wanted to see a virtual rendering of those. I think, you know, if like for Landmark, for example, we're a development, development company that's based in Athens, Georgia, here in the Southeast. So, you know, I know me personally, I tend to always think we've got to have renderings of our pool, got to have the fitness center, you know, the big popular amenities that you see almost everywhere. But, you know, if you're building a property in a different region, maybe those aren't the most important things to show off and to promote. And so, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's surprising, but I think it's really nice to see the data for it.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely, you know, take that into consideration when, you know, deciding how to promote our amenities, you know, from here on out.
So let's talk about that tease phase is what I call it. I don't know if you guys call it the same thing, but you know, that 18 to 24 months, you know, before move in, when, and you know, when I got started in this industry, that tease phase, you know, we were literally breaking ground in September and October, you know, with a lot of this garden style home stuff that was so, you know, prevalent when I was doing new development. And so it's or very active in new development and doing the lease up part of it. And so, you know, a tease may have been, you know, before the last student newspaper, you know, went out for a spring semester, you know, getting some kind of article, you know, in that about, you know, something new coming. But now it's literally 18 to 2 years before, before anything, before the property is being delivered, and you guys are having to go ahead and get IG accounts set up. You're launching the website. I'm curious, you know, can you guys kind of lay out for the audience, you know, maybe there's somebody that's looking to do their first lease up, you know, what all has to be done in that tease phase, both digitally as well as boots on the ground, because I think, you know, I've seen some of what your companies are doing as far as making sure that it's not just a digital presence, but you've actually got, you know, ambassadors that are or some type of influencers that are out on campus. Can you kind of lay that out for us? And what is it that you're doing to make sure that student body is aware that this project is coming? Jessica, we'll start with you.
Yeah, happy to start on this one. And Wes, I think undoubtedly it's the people that you have around the project. And that's from the beginning buzz all the way through to the long-term success of any site. It's the people that you have, and that they're true ambassadors of the brand and the product that you're putting out in the market. And I'm so grateful for the team I have around me. And then additionally, it's key partnerships within the market that you're building within hotspots or on university campuses. And then it's disruptive advertising that says, hey, this new development is here, and it's the hottest thing in off campus this coming season. So you better get it while it's hot.
Great. Jordan.
I love a good spring tease. That's what I like to call it. And a good spring tease is going to start with a great campaign. And so when we look at doing spring teases, we evaluate it, because obviously it costs money. So we evaluate our markets and identify, do we have some very early markets? Do we have some very competitive markets? Let's go get in there in April. And it's two-pronged, right? So we develop the campaign. And we launch it digitally as well as boots on the ground. So what that looks like, for instance, we did this in Auburn. I go out with usually a Rockstar PM or LMM or both that join me on the trip for a week-long street teaming and engagement with the students at Auburn University. And then while we're actually giving away swag, driving traffic to our splash page to get them excited and pumped and signing up for our VIP list. We're also inviting them to an event. So we usually host an event on Thursday night. That's usually the Thirsty Thursday college nights that everyone likes to attend. We give away prizes, but we're really just talking about our property, talking about what's coming, so that before they leave for summer break, when they come back, they're anticipating seeing that project coming out of the ground, and that they're ready to sign their lease when we launch in August. And in the example of Auburn, when we did launch 4 months later in August, we were full by the end of February for that lease up. And I believe we did about 40 rate increases over the course of that lease up as well. So super beneficial, not beneficial in all markets. And I will say that if you go too early, you're just kind of burning some money and burning some time. You want it to be more in the April, maybe really April time period, because May you get into the exams and they're leaving and parents are around. April's that sweet spot that you want to go to the market.
Gotcha. Adam.
Yeah, I may have to steal Jordan's spring tease term, because that's definitely a lot cooler than what I've referred to.
Adam, you can have it. I will rock with it. Go for it.
I like that a lot. So yeah, the spring visits has been a big thing for Landmark. And like Jordan said, I think it's very important in markets that you think are early or are going to be very competitive. So while we may not do it at all of them, we definitely want to take a look and evaluate whether or not we think it's needed. But generally around April timeframe, have people that work on our lease ups in another market, maybe even the team that's supposed to go to that market in the fall, go on the ground for about a week, start up the social media, go around and try to build up our following, hand out promotional events. Ahead of time, before being boots on the ground, we would have tried to schedule Greek chapter meetings, hit as many of those as possible, and then have a nice event, probably on a Thursday night, where we can actually interact with students on, where they are, enjoying some drinks and socializing, and really, show them why, we have a great fun staff, and kind of give them a glimpse of the lifestyle that they'll have if they live at our property. And again, similar to what Jordan said, it's just about getting them excited, starting to build some brand recognition, and making them think about your property over the summer, and actually looking forward to returning to campus in the fall and learning more about it, and being excited about the start of leasing.
Gotcha. Chelsea.
So kind of echoing everybody else's thoughts, I put together like a very elementary version of exactly what we do on social media to start the buzz. And typically that's just, announcing your logo, like just a simple coming soon with your brand. It gives the opportunity for your parent company and all of the folks within your company to share it. We all talk about how small student housing is, even though it's large, everybody kind of really knows each other. So you never know when you share these things, who is going to see it and be in a particular market and can help you out. Also kind of helps establish some of those relationships in the market that Jordan was referring to. And then, to some of the points that Jes made, then start giving little teasers about what makes your community different. Really become familiar with the market. Highlight the features that your community is going to be bringing to the market that they don't already have. And it doesn't necessarily have to be amenities. It can be things such as, if you're going to be pet friendly and they're not, anything to make your community stand out among the competition is going to benefit you. And then lastly, this is something that everybody's kind of talked about, to complete your brand image, share the staff that's going to be in the office. It makes your Instagram and social media super unique, and it helps everybody get a little bit of a face with the brand.
Yeah. Victoria.
Absolutely. So, we know with student housing, everyone is doing what someone else is doing, right? We're followers when it comes to student housing in terms of who's signing a lease and who's not. And so, as Jessica said, going the route of finding the right influencers in that market to be able to push your brand forward is going to be number one for me. And then, of course, I've done enough new development with Jordan to know her very exciting spring teases. So I can tell you firsthand that works tremendously. So if you're not already doing that, definitely do that. But the one thing that I toss in is I do more like a study in which I literally blast every student and have them all come together to tell us what they would like to see at the property. Granted, it's not always going to be what they want that's going to be at the property, but the thought process that they think their opinion matters is going to drive how they speak about the property and telling other people about it so that they can, sign up for that VIP list and apply when the season starts. So that's kind of, a little bit about what I do for my teases.
Well, great. So let's move past that tease phase, and also I understand we're at 1 o'clock. This is going to be going a little bit longer than we planned. If any of the panelists need to jump because of commitments, I completely understand. But I want to keep rolling with this because I think there's some great information that would benefit our audience here. What is your preference when choosing a location for a leasing center? Now you're past the tease phase. You're at a point where you've got to you either put a trailer on the site and mock it up as a leasing center, or you've got to choose a retail location that you can do something. What is your preference when choosing that location? And I also would love to hear your thoughts on kind of what elements, the furniture samples, the floor plan displays, all those things, are absolutely essential for the leasing center. Jordan, we'll start with you on this one.
Great question. Leasing offices are a very pivotal part of the lease up, and my preference is always to be in the most high traffic areas to capture organic traffic. So put simply, go where your students are now, don't make them come to you. If you can get an A+ location in a retail space that can be outfitted with a leasing reception, a mock model, and even showcase an amenity, I think that's our ideal situation. That being said, you really only need 1,500 square feet to do a proper leasing office with the leasing reception and mock model. If you want to take it that next step further and incorporate the amenity, which is something that we've been doing the last couple of years, is really looking for anything 15 to 2,000 square feet. That being said, it's not always your option, right? And retail spaces are always fluctuating. And, I know that looking much to launching the 2020s, it was real hard to find retail. Now, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, you can find retail in a lot of places, but that would be my first preference. I will also say that, utilizing VR when you're building out your leasing space is not something that is just supplementary. So it used to be, okay, we're doing a trailer, so we need to supplement with VR. I'm saying best case scenario, you have the full retail space, you have it in that walkable pedestrian traffic area, and you have VR. So if you're planning to do a leasing office in the next 18 months, I would really recommend that when you're talking to your architect, or if you're doing it yourself, which you can, really let them know that you're going to be having that VR so that they can create a space within the leasing reception that makes it safe for them to put the goggles on, do the, spin around and do all that. So dedicate a space in your office to the VR. And then of course, if you do have a trailer, I've done a 300 square foot trailer before, you know what, you can still make it work. Yeah. You just have to find different ways to showcase finishes and your furniture, whether, if you have a small desk, make it your student desk, make that chair, the chair that will come in the unit, make it so that everything they touch and feel in that very small space is something that you're showcasing. So that would be my advice on smaller spaces.
Yeah. Chelsea?
Definitely what Jordan said, you want to find a spot with the best foot traffic. Specifically, my preference is to be as close to campus as possible. If you could be in the downtown area that's close to campus, that would be your number one choice. If not, definitely try to find a retail space where you're going to have foot traffic that students are frequenting. You don't want just pedestrian traffic that is non-student, so that's important. And then, if you can't find that, having a trailer that's near the construction site to showcase the location of the community, I think is important if you have to go that route, but definitely a retail space is preferable. As far as the essentials in the leasing office go, totally agree that you have to have some renderings. You have to have the virtual stuff. It's essential to lease up your deal now. I think we've gotten way past the days of being able to, just show them photo renderings. It needs to be a walkthrough. And I think that, having 3D floor plans posted up in your office is also essential. And then having all of your specs up. If you have a retail space and your countertops can be the spec counters, which are going to have cabinets, lighting, flooring, all of those features, anything that you can throw in that's going to match what you're going to have on the site, I think it's very important to being able to sell the property. And then if you have a tight space, it's nice if you have a larger space to have the full mock model. But if you've got a tight space, like Jordan said, just throw in stuff where you can. Highlight the bedroom furniture. That's normally going to be the most unique furniture anyway. Living room furniture. The bedroom furniture is normally pretty standard throughout the industry. So, whatever you have that's unique, I would highlight that in your leasing office.
Gotcha. Adam.
Yeah, so I will echo, what Chelsea and Jordan said. I think top preference for the type of leasing office would be, a retail space that is already getting a lot of pedestrian student traffic. I think that's very important to make it easy for them to visit your office. From there, we've done a wide range of sizes and styles of offices over the years. And typically what we do is, start with the floor plan and then think about, what's the experience going to be like when a student comes in and go from there. And that's how we start designing our offices. And if it leaves room to do, a kitchen build out, a bedroom build out, absolutely. We want to include those things. I think it is very beneficial to have items that students can, touch, see, and feel in person. But also we want to give them a similar experience to, what it's going to be like when they walk into the new property for the very first time. So we also try to pull in elements from the, interior design at our actual properties, and just try to replicate that feeling of, being on a brand new property, a really nice property for the very first time, and replicate that the best we can. And so that they walk away, from our leasing office having had a memorable experience. And VR is, you have to have it. I think in order to, especially as competitive as the industry is these days, it's just not an option to not have VR renderings and a virtual tour that you can show off in a leasing office and on your website. So I think that's a must as well.
So if I'm taking notes, it's definitely, having VR as we've discussed, and then also I'm hearing a lot about interior design elements. Are you guys typical? Well, I think I know the answer to this question. I'm assuming that that most of you guys are typically budgeting something, with interior design when it comes to those spaces, as well as what they're doing in your permanent leasing office, once you're able to move into the building.
I will say one thing on that, Wes, is that absolutely we are, and I would recommend you not skimp on it, because the accessories, the soft goods, the things that accentuate the things you're providing in the apartment home are key for the student to have that moment of aspiration to move into your community. And so if your accessories, while cute, are simply Target accessories, that's not aspirational, and it's what everyone else has, or maybe they already have. You really want to kick it up a notch. There's a lot of good companies out there that can help you take your leasing office from, really basic to the next level. And I'm sure you've worked with those companies, Wesley, but a lot of resources out there.
Yeah. Well, love the gals at South Park Interiors. I don't know if any of them are joining.
That's who I was.
I know Price uses them as well. So, hey, let's go to Victoria and Jessica on that question. Anything else there to add?
Yeah, I agree with everything everyone has said. The only thing that I would add, obviously my preference being a retail space in a high traffic area, but I have done both and been successful at both. But the one thing that I would mention is that regardless of how amazing your retail space is, your model, your trailer is the people that are selling it that are going to make an impact, right? Yeah. And so if you don't have a team that's bought in to be able to be like, yes, I'm excited about it, therefore you should be excited about it, you're not going to get anywhere. People are going to walk in and think it's beautiful and still go somewhere else. So definitely investing in your on-site team when it comes to presenting how beautiful your property is going to be ideal.
Yeah, and a couple things that the group hasn't touched on, while I agree with all the colleagues on this call, is that we want to have a space for an office for the manager to be able to have private calls, guarantor calls, contract calls, things like that. Also, Instagrammable moment in the office, a resident wall are some of the things that are popular, but it's all about the experience when you're walking in, the touch, the feel, the smell, the look of how inviting it is to the prospect. Is really the key there. All of those elements add to that factor. But great answers across the board. And I agree, retail is king, location, 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 high walkable score for sure.
So glad you said smell, because
yes,
I had a client one time that got a great spot, but it was right beside of the Thursday night bar, right? And it was Friday mornings were just, it was not a time to, even though the sidewalks were clean, there was just that you didn't want to walk into that leasing center. It's just funny that you mentioned that. So anyway, what I'll say, to go back to, I can't remember who made the comment earlier, but there's a lot of stuff that's happened inside of a lot of leasing that's happened in coffee houses, and a story I like to share with that is with Chase Lawrence and of College Town Properties. He's also a co-founder of College House, but there's a podcast episode that I never released because there were audio issues, and you just couldn't do it. But anyway, his first deal was at was in Knoxville, the Orchard, small, I don't know, 124, 135 bed property. And it was actually, he was selling the individual cottages. And this was right in the middle of the recession. And he needed to get purchase agreements from parents and students prior to even going to the bank and getting a construction loan. This is 2009, 2010. No one's given a new developer construction loans, and he signed every single one of those at the Starbucks on Cumberland Avenue in Knoxville. And then after he started building, went back there to lease the bedrooms as well. So it's really about what you guys said. It's the people, it's the attitude, and all of those other things are just tools to help them do their job. So just my 2 cents. All right, so we've got that leasing center secured and outfitted. We've got the staff on the ground. We've been collecting social media followers, hopefully an email list of people who have visited the website. What does that announcement to those people and the campus at large look like when you're ready for people to start signing leases? Do you make that into an event? I know Billy Peterson's on is an attendee here. I know he did that. I don't think it was the original lease up, but it was in Chapel Hill where he leased the entire building in one day. And I've learned a lot of lessons on what she did there. But tell me, what's the recipe to make sure you get everyone talking about a property that they can't even walk into yet? Chelsea, let's go with you first.
So I think the launch of the VIP list has been probably the best feature that we've had for our lease ups lately. You start that exclusive feel right off the bat. So, you've already got your social media following. You've got, hopefully an email list as well. If you're in a really good market, you've got the student body email list as well. And you start asking people who wants to be part of this VIP list. And you make it feel super exclusive. And the next steps is you invite them to an open house. You get them in, you get them excited about the brand. You get them excited about all of the new features they're going to have, and it's only available to them. And then you get a big buzz going about the specific day one of lease signing. And when you get ready to launch that campaign, you give them the best rates and specials possible. Because the atmosphere of the VIP vibe automatically gives your new development a luxury feel, and the excitement is just going to go and pay itself off so much larger than that. If they're excited about signing leases, they're just going to tell all of their friends about it, and your word of mouth has already gotten pretty contagious. So that's what's been super successful for us.
Jessica?
Yeah, absolutely. So besides the thrill of the VIP list and building that buzz, it's really about the grassroots marketing that you're going to be doing as well, the hand-to-hand flyer, the activation of the digital campaign and tweaking it towards the launch that you're going to have, and going full force with just everything that you're doing during the year, but making that substantially higher. So as Grant Cardone says, it's 10xing every initiative that you're doing all the way up until the launch. So just turning it up. And making sure that there's a focus into that grand opening event, sneak peek event.
Victoria, anything to add?
Exactly what Chelsea said. I've done the exclusive VIP list, and people just want to feel special. People want to feel like, what they're getting is particularly for them and not for everyone else. So the exclusive VIP list is 100% the first way to go. Having the best rates and specials are also ideal. Usually, we do like a small portion of those interested at those special rates, but they existed. Therefore, it kind of creates the word of mouth, like, oh, I got this rate, you should go too. You may not get it, but you're still coming for us to be able to convert you, right? And so those two are pretty much high on my list. And then creating that huge open house event to be able to bring everybody in to see and showcase what it is that you have to offer is pretty up there as well.
Adam, Jordan, anything else?
I agree with all those points. I think having a big event where you can get people excited is very important. I think making sure you've communicated something that's making students feel like they're having some sort of exclusivity by making the decision early and giving them a reason to want to show up on lease launch day. At Landmark, we kind of over the years have somewhat of a formula that we use leading up to lease launch. But I will say, going back to the people that you have on the ground, that is the key to having a successful lease launch, because we take the same approach with every market that we go to, but there are teams that have 100% knock it out of the park every lease launch. And there are teams that are essentially doing the same thing, but then they don't have successful lease launches. And I think comes down to them being able to connect with students and get students excited on a personal level, and that they really care truly about making sure that their lease launch is successful. And so just to kind of bring it back to talking about how important it is to have the right people on the ground, I think that is absolutely the case for having a successful lease launch at a new lease up.
Gotcha. So in our discussion last week, preparing for this, we talked a little bit about the PTSD factor in a market when another developer, prior to yourself, is delivered late, especially when it's really late, and some of the pushback that you get from students when you're trying to convince them this is going to be done on time. I just wondering, and you guys speak up. I won't go through because we're getting short on time here. But we'll start with Victoria. You're the best at overcoming objections, Victoria. So I wanted to make sure I got this answer from you. What is it that you found when you found yourself in that situation and students are saying, yeah, I'll sign that lease when I feel confident you're going to deliver? How are you overcoming that?
It all starts with communication, right? Being able to communicate the progress of the construction up until that period in which you may or may not be delivered on time is going to be essential. However, when it comes to the objection of, I want to wait until I feel confident, you want to make sure you're giving hard hat tours. You want to make sure you're giving construction updates as to, all right, 30 days ago, this is where we were, and now look at where we're at now. If you're not able to provide those updates to get people to get comfortable with the idea, you're not going to get that lease signed. But we're also in a people business. So essentially you need someone who is bought in. If your CA is not confident that that property is going to be delivered on time, they're not going to be able to convey that message no matter how hard you try. So making sure that they themselves are bought in and believe that everything is going to be done on time is going to be essential in them delivering that message. But hard hat tours always and giving construction updates are the two big ones that you have to deliver. And of course, in the event that you're not, okay, you have temporary housing options that you can put them in. That's not always sexy, which is why it's third on my list. But first and foremost, doing the hard hat tours and then doing the construction updates.
All right. Guys, anyone else want to add to that? Those are some great remarks. I know we're running short on time. All right, perfect. So let's talk about construction costs really quick. They've been skyrocketing this past year. As we're all aware, those increases are causing some of the developers to really, delay and abandon some projects after they already had to shelve them because, of COVID. But others are trying to figure out ways that they can still make it happen. Typically when a developer sees an impact on construction costs, they start taking away from the marketing budget. And I'm just wondering, are you guys experiencing that? And if so, what areas of the marketing budget are you pulling back from? Jordan, I'll start with you on this.
Yeah. So are we seeing, the cost of construction impact budgets across the board? Yes. But, I think it's really about the open communication that we have with our clients, that we have with our development teams. And we really talk through what's going to impact leasing. Where can we make a concession in that, okay, you're telling me that it's too costly for the pool to be on the roof, or, we've got to eliminate the pool. What are we going to do to bring value in its place? And honestly, I was thinking about this the other day, because we've talked about this on, with our practice, but I think some of the better ideas and out of the box ideas when it comes to amenity spaces come from some sort of budget squeeze or constraint. And, with this pool example, we're looking at doing a community garden that has, some hammocks around there. We've also done like serenity gardens or done other things that honestly hadn't really thought about before. And, per Euphoris and College House's, study, if every community in the market has a luxury massive pool, then it stands to reason that there's a group of people out there, there's a group of students out there that might be looking for a different experience. And if you can provide that alternative and sell that lifestyle, you're going to find your target market, your target demographic, and people that will stay with you and renew with you.
Yeah. Jessica, I know you're working with a lot of clients, third-party clients that are probably facing that same situation or coming back to you guys at Asset and saying, okay, we got to pull this from somewhere. So I'm interested in your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, budgets are my jam. But I love presenting budgets in a way where, since we are a third-party management company, we really want to ensure that they know that we have a true partnership with them, and that we're operating and advising per line item or the entirety of the budget like it's our own money and it's our own project that we're laying the brickwork ourselves. And so there is this give and take that usually happens. And it usually works out, and we see results because we have a true partnership with our clients where they trust our advice that this dollar amount is going to be sufficient for the lease up, or that we need a certain dollar amount because of these facts. So it always comes with kind of facts when we're also presenting budgets as well.
Gotcha. Anybody else want to add to that?
I mean, I had a client that wanted to touch the marketing budget after it had been approved, and it all lasted 5 days when I had to sit down with them and explain to them the effects of taking that away and how that would affect the leasing. And, you know, with leasing being so important, they retracted faster than anything because the budget was already tight. Sometimes you just can't do what you need to do. And so you stand to reason with the right people and see what you can get out of them. But yep, it lasted all of 5 minutes, and they were like, you know what, it's fine. Leasing is important. Go ahead and do what you need to do. So sometimes they oblige, sometimes they don't, but I'm glad we have other avenues should the budget be cut, how we maneuver forward. But yeah.
So last question, and this is on renovations. We haven't talked about renovations yet, but there's a lot of similarities, especially if it's a rebrand. And I'm not talking about a renovation where you go out and add a new amenity or redo the clubhouse, right? Like I'm talking about unit renovations, where you're changing out appliances and flooring and, maybe doing something different with cabinetry or furniture or whatever, right? There's a lot of similarities there because the time frame is a little similar, but you're also dealing with current residents, and it brings its a whole new set of issues into it. And unlike new construction, you can start with renovating the model unit, and that certainly makes the leasing process easier, right? But when it comes to marketing those upgrades and getting the word out to students about, a new name, I'm just wondering, and Chelsea, I know you're probably our biggest expert here when it comes to renovation. So we'll start with you. Any tips you can give our audience on renovations and marketing that?
Yeah, so both definitely come with their heartburn because anybody that's ever worked with construction knows that it does not go as planned, and any renovation does not go as planned either. Schedules get mixed up and whatnot. So they both come with their challenges, but your advantage here is that, whereas when you have a new development, you're looking for a pool of people to collect for that VIP list. You already have the step up on that because you have your own residents. So, first and foremost, go ahead and announce that rebrand as quickly as you can. And with the announcement of the rebrand, go ahead and announce what's coming with that. As many of the upgrades and updates as you can possibly include in that. I would go ahead and announce that with it. Get the students excited about it, because the more excited that the residents are about these renovations, the less likely they are to be upset with you when there's construction going on in the unit at 8 o'clock in the morning, or when they're trying to study for finals and whatnot. Definitely, like you said, renovate the model as soon as you can. With the renovations, normally you're going to do, if you're doing a major renovation to the units, you're also going to be doing a major renovation to the clubhouse and the amenities. So your staff is probably going to be working out of the model. Once you get the model updated, launch an open house for your residents to come and take a look at it first. You're going to want them to renew before the general public starts to lease as well. And then once your staff is in the model, it's easy to showcase what those upgrades are going to be, especially if and when you're having to increase rates by a significant margin. With that, it gets them the ability to see what they're paying for. My other tip is my other two tips is to make sure you have lots of signage. If you're going to relocate your staff, make sure it's easy to find them in the model. put a huge banner over the clubhouse explaining why there's a renovation and what's going to come new with those renovations. Put little bandit signs throughout the property with, new and improved clubhouse, fitness center, whatever else, internet upgrades. If you're doing internet upgrades, make sure that one's in there. And then my last piece of advice for renovations is, if you can, make sure that you have a representative from your management company with the vendors at all times. It gives a sense of security for the residents. It also gives a sense of security for the staff that things aren't going to go awry. And then, it helps with the customer service as well. Make sure you're also focusing hard on your SEO. If you're launching a rebrand, get those Google pay-per-clicks up pretty quickly and focus hard on that. But that's the majority of what I had for renovation.
Great. Anybody else got any words of wisdom on when it comes to renovations?
I'm only going to add a couple of things. I agree with everything Chelsea said. But the one thing that I want to note is make sure you have a way of staggering that renovation, right? Obviously, do your model leasing office first, but if you have vacant units, go ahead and start there. And if you can do it during the summer months where students are not in there, is going to be ideal, because it's going to limit how many students are mad or angry with you, as most of them want out in May anyways. So if you can complete the bulk work while they're away during, winter break in November, and then picking up again in the summer, that's a really good
point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Plus, I was also going to add for rebranding, as far as kind of from an operational standpoint, you want to look at everything that you have in your inventory that has the old name. So scrubbing that out, looking at the uniforms for the staff, the signage, your online presence, any marketing collateral, reordering all of that, then doing a marketing blitz with the press release to local outlets is important to let them know of the rebranding. Guerrilla marketing efforts, obviously, on campus to introduce a new name. And then as far as renovations, having true communication with your resident base. This common area is going to be down within these dates. Maybe your unit's going to be affected within these dates. So true communication to your resident base. And then also progress reports, just like you would in Indeed Dev. And then going live when certain areas of the community are up and running, and they build the hype and get excited for the residents about that. And then doing an unveiling party at the end when everything is completed always also helps. But yeah, that's my advice on renovations and rebranding in general.
Well, great. Well, guys, thanks so much. There's been just a ton of information. I think our audience is certainly better for it. And thanks so much for your time. To all of our attendees that have stuck around for the last 30 minutes, I appreciate it. I hope that you found a lot of value in this. StudentHousingInsight.com is where you can get more information about what we're doing here at Student Housing Insight. Also, make sure that you're listening to the podcast. If you're not a podcast listener, and you consume things on YouTube, we've got a lot of great videos. This will actually be one of them that we'll be posting probably sometime next week, so that you can share it with folks that may not have been able to attend today. Guys, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks.